The major talking point surrounding this year's general election in the Kerry South constituency was the extraordinary performance of the Fine Gael candidate Brendan Griffin. By topping the poll, the Kiel native, at just 28 years of age, was the youngest TD ever elected in this constituency, and the first since Michael Begley from the Dingle Peninsula. Now we're delighted that Deputy Griffin has joined us here in the studio today to find out what exactly was behind this extraordinary performance and to find out what the future has in store. So welcome, Deputy Griffin. So firstly, you stood for election at a time where people wanted great change. But in your own words, why exactly do you stand for election for the Dáil?
Well, there are numerous reasons why I stood for election. Partly because people wanted change, but mainly because I felt I could deliver that change and that I could contribute to something better for the country overall. And there are many reasons why people vote for candidates. They vote for them on personality, they vote for them on their party, they vote for them on various local issues, and all of those reasons contributed to my election, I suppose. But I felt that Ireland was going in the wrong direction, that we needed change at a national level, and I wanted to contribute to that national change, and that's why I stood for Fine Gael, and I was delighted to have won the seat and hoping to contribute to the change in this country over the next couple of years.
And previous to this, of course, you were a councillor, but do you think you were elected on the basis that people wanted change or on the basis of the policies that you offered?
Well, as I said, I suppose there are a number of reasons why people would vote for you, and I felt that I was representative of the broader policies that Fine Gael stood for. But also as well, for example, here in the Dingle Peninsula, we had been without a TD since 1989 on the peninsula, and I felt there was a very strong desire on the peninsula to have a TD based here. Also as well, the fact that I'm a young TD was very important to people. I think there was a strong feeling amongst the public that there was a need for a new generation of TDs in the country and representative of new ideas and new thoughts and new outlook. And I think that was something that people saw in me as well, and that was important. But I suppose people felt that I could do a good job. I would like to think that in my time as a councillor that I had represented people to the best of my ability, and that people hadn't been disappointed by what I had promised in the run-up to the council election in 2009 and what I delivered as a councillor. So I think maybe all of those factors combined really helped me, but at the same time there's a massive weight of expectation as well on one's shoulders when you do get elected. To the biggest fear I have is not to let anyone down. It's something that's with me every day. It's, you're always conscious of the fact you're there representing the people, and you have to do a very good job. Failure isn't an option, and that is something certainly that I feel part of the job, but it was, overall I think a number of reasons really contributed.
Well, the policies you proposed to implement once elected was, of course, taking a 50% wage cut, which you took. Another was enhancing Kerry's health services. Will this not be difficult to do when vital A&E services are being cut in other parts of the country?
Yes, it will be difficult, there's no doubt about it. As a country we're spending almost 20 billion per annum more than what we're taking in, and that has to be adjusted. And if long term, if we're trying to get the country back on track, and if we're trying to get some stability into our national finances, and if we're trying to restore our ability to go to the bond markets and borrow from the bond markets rather than having to rely on the ECB or the EU or the IMF to run our country, we need to have fiscal rectitude in the country. So it is going to be difficult to protect services at every level, not just in the health service, but at every level, in every department. But I think Kerry's position in relation to, first of all, our accident and emergency department has been made very clear that it is there under the reconfiguration programme for the HSE South area, that the future is secure. But we need to be constantly vigilant about everything in our health service in Kerry, because everything is changing. But I would be confident. Next week I have a question into the Department of Health for reply on the future of the accident and emergency unit in Kerry General Hospital, on the new building progress update, on the new A&E unit, on the current complement of staff, and whether or not that'll be enough to run the new unit, if there'll be additional staff required, and all that. And I think you need to keep questioning, you need to keep asking those questions of the HSE and of the Minister, and keep those issues on the agenda. And since becoming a councillor in 2009, and since becoming a member of Dáil Éireann in February, I've been doing my best to keep asking the questions, keep the issues on the agenda, and keep in regular contact with the HSE and with the Minister on those issues. I mean, for example, in Kinmare, I was very glad to be part of ensuring that Kinmare Hospital will be included in the capital plan and will be built. And so I think you just need to keep plugging away at these things and keep trying, keep making the effort. But I would be lying if I said that everything is safe, everything is secure. I think in the current environment, nothing is safe and nothing is secure. That's why it's more important than ever that we have a strong voice in the constituency, in the county, fighting our corner and making sure that we hold on to what we can here.
Well, something, of course, that's very important to us here, especially in Dingle, is on Gaeilge. And the controversial policy which we have, of course, Fine Gael's policy towards the Irish language. What's your view of this?
Well, it certainly provoked a huge amount of controversy before the election, and I took a line on it that wasn't in keeping with the party leader's position on it, which was that I felt that the Irish language had to be maintained as a compulsory subject on the Leaving Cert. In our programme for government, we have, with the Labour Party, the plans to abolish Irish as a compulsory subject have been postponed, pending implementation of reviews of reforms in the meantime. So personally, I don't ever see the situation arising again where there would be a proposal from the Fine Gael party to have Irish abolished as a compulsory subject. That's just my own view personally. I don't think that will happen again.
Okay.
But I was happy to take the stand that I stood before the election. It created a bit of awkwardness, let's say, between myself and the then leader of Fine Gael, the now Taoiseach, in the Kenny. But I think he understands where the position that I was in as well, and my view on the matter. But I do feel that it was very important that Fine Gael put the Irish language on the political agenda, and bear in mind that the proposal to remove Irish as a compulsory subject on the Leaving Cert was only one very, very small aspect of the overall Fine Gael policy on the Irish language, which was to see a review in how we teach the language and try to enhance the amount of people leaving the formal school system not being able to speak Irish, to try to address that issue. And I think that's something we need to work on. Yeah,
well, there's quite a few issues there. Another issue that's important for Dingle is obviously the ice plant, which I know you've been working to retain.
Yes.
Where does that stand now?
Well, at the moment, we have recently received a 2-month reprieve where the contracts of the workers at the ice plant, the temporary contracts, have been extended for 2 months. Basically, the BIM are overall trying to reduce the numbers of people that they have on their employment books. And as part of that, they see the ice plant as an area where they can reduce their numbers, and they would like to transfer the operation of the ice plant to an alternative operator. Now, Councillor Seamus Cussy Fitzgerald and I have been working on this very hard. We met with the CEO and Deputy CEO of BIM earlier in the year, and we have been continuing negotiations with them, and also with the Minister for Agriculture, Simon Coveney, as well, under whose department this area falls. And at the moment, BIM are in contact with members of the local fishing industry to see if perhaps a cooperative could be put in place to take over the ownership of the ice plant. I think what's important here is that the ice plant is kept in some form of public ownership, that it's because it's of its strategic importance to the fishing industry in Dingle, that it would be kept in public ownership, and that ice will be affordable and accessible to the local industry. And that's what I want to see happening, and that's what Councillor Fitzgerald wants to see happening. So we hope to have progress in it soon, but at least we have the months of July and August now to keep working on this and to achieve progress on this. And the 2-month reprieve was welcome, and it was very much needed, because otherwise the ice plant would have closed at the end of June. So that was something that I had worked very closely with Simon Coveney, the Minister for Agriculture, on, was to ensure that he got approval from the Department of Public Expenditure, from the Minister Howland, for that to happen. Okay,
very good. Very quickly, Brendan, where should the focus of politicians be, on local issues or national issues?
I think you need to strike a balance. You need to obviously focus on your duty as a legislator and as a parliamentarian, but you need to keep contact with the people who elected you and the people who you represent. And it's very, very hard to strike that balance. Personally, since my election in February, I've been absolutely inundated with individual jobs, with the small things, I suppose, in the overall context of things that are very important to individual people. And that takes up a huge amount of your time. But you just need to try to be as efficient as possible. That's where your support staff come in. You need to have your office working efficiently. And I often find myself, actually nearly every night that I'm in Dublin, I find myself leaving my office at 11:30 when they're literally locking up the office, because you are following up on individual jobs. And that's the reality of work as a TD. And, you know, so you have to do that. And under the current electoral system that we have, you have to do that work. But you need to ensure that your primary responsibility, which is your role as a legislator and as a parliamentarian, isn't neglected. Trying to strike that balance isn't easy, and I spent the first term in Dáil Éireann trying to get that balance right and trying to get a system that works. And I feel I've settled in fairly well so far, but unfortunately you were under immense pressure the whole time in this job, and that's part of it. But I knew that getting into it as well, so I'm not complaining too much.
Well, you're doing a good job so far. Thanks very much for coming in and joining us here.
Thanks very much.
That's Deputy Brendan Griffin. Now, for updates on these stories, Television Scrogall will be keeping you updated throughout the series, and Brendan Griffin will have updates on his website, brendangriffin.ie. Well, that's it for this month. Baby Nash and me, Shakun. Song of Full.